The Johnson family prided themselves on their wealth and influence, having built a legacy that spanned generations. Their estate, a sprawling mansion nestled in one of the most affluent neighborhoods, stood as a testament to their success. Tall marble columns framed the entrance, leading into a vast hall adorned with portraits of ancestors who had amassed fortunes in various industries like steel, banking, and real estate. The stern expressions of these ancestors served as a reminder that the Johnson name was synonymous with power and prestige. At the helm of this family was Robert Johnson, a man who carried himself with an air of confidence that suggested he had never encountered failure. Every step he took was deliberate, his words carefully chosen, and his presence could command attention. Even in his 60s, he was a formidable figure in the corporate world, expanding the family's empire with ruthless determination. His wife, Margaret Johnson, epitomized refined elegance. Once a celebrated socialite, she had dedicated decades to ensuring that their family name remained untarnished among the elite. For years, they had meticulously crafted the future of their only daughter, Emily Johnson. She attended the finest schools, dined at the most exclusive clubs, and mingled with the most eligible bachelors of their social class. It was understood and expected that Emily would marry someone of wealth, securing a partnership that would elevate the Johnson legacy even further. This expectation was shattered when Emily announced her engagement to Jake Thompson, a man without any noble lineage, fortune, or a name of significance. He was an engineer, a hard-working individual who earned his living through skill rather than status. Polite, well-spoken, and intelligent, Jake's greatest flaw in the eyes of the Johnsons was something beyond his control. His father, Tom Thompson, was a retired mechanic. When Emily first shared the news of her engagement with her parents, Robert and Margaret exchanged knowing glances. They had encountered situations like this before: infatuation, rebellion, fleeting romance. They assumed Emily would soon realize the mistake she was making, that the thrill of marrying outside her social class would fade once she understood the consequences. However, Emily was resolute. She loved Jake, and nothing would change her mind. Left with no other options, Robert and Margaret decided to host a formal dinner, not to welcome Jake's family but to assess them. As the evening approached, the Johnson estate was prepared for the guests. The dining hall glimmered under a grand chandelier, casting a warm glow over the long oak table set with fine china and crystal glasses. A team of servers moved with precision, ensuring that every detail was flawless. Margaret had personally selected the wine, convinced that this dinner would be the moment Emily would come to her senses. Finally, the moment arrived. Jake stepped through the grand doors, his posture confident yet respectful, accompanied by his father, Tom Thompson, an elderly man with a lean frame. Tom's face was etched with deep lines that told stories of years of hard work. He wore a simple, well-pressed suit, not expensive, but neat and presentable. His demeanor exuded quiet dignity, unsettling the Johnsons, who had expected a show of deference. Margaret maintained her practiced smile, but Robert did not hide his scrutiny. As they took their seats, polite conversation filled the air, but the tension was palpable. Robert wasted no time. "So, Mr. Thompson," he began, swirling his wine, "Jake tells us you were a mechanic." Tom nodded. "That's right. I worked on cars for most of my life." Robert's lips twitched, almost forming a smirk. "Must have been, fulfilling work." Tom met his gaze without flinching. "It was honest work. Always is." As the evening progressed, the undertones of judgment lingered. The Johnsons believed they were merely assessing Jake's family, but they were about to learn that their world was about to change forever. Call to action. If you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments below and stay tuned for more engaging content from Flourishing Tales. The day of Emily and Jake's wedding dawned bright and beautiful, and the Johnson estate had never looked more magnificent. Every detail had been meticulously planned to ensure the occasion was nothing short of perfect. The venue selected for the ceremony was a prestigious ballroom in one of the city's most luxurious hotels, adorned with glittering chandeliers that sparkled like stars, casting a warm glow across the polished marble floor. The air was filled with the sweet scent of freshly arranged orchids, while the soft hum of an orchestra provided an elegant backdrop, enhancing the grandeur of the celebration. The guest list was a carefully curated selection of business magnates, politicians, and social elites, all gathered to witness the union of Emily Johnson and Jake Thompson. However, to many in attendance, the wedding seemed less about love and more about the merging of legacies, a spectacle designed to showcase the Johnson family's continued dominance in high society. As guests mingled, laughter and chatter filled the air, but beneath the surface there was an undercurrent of judgment and expectation. Among the elegantly dressed attendees, Tom Thompson sat quietly at a distant table, feeling the weight of isolation. Dressed in his best suit, he had prepared himself for the judgmental glances and hushed whispers that would inevitably come his way. He had never belonged to their world, and he recognized that this gathering was a reminder of that. Yet as he observed the festivities, he couldn't help but feel proud of his son, who was about to marry the woman he loved. Emily glided gracefully through the room, a vision in her stunning white gown, as guests murmured their compliments about her beauty and poise. Jake stood by her side, his demeanor a mix of excitement and nervousness. He could sense the tension in the air as he caught sight of his father seated alone at the far table, his heart heavy with concern for Tom. Although he respected his father's quiet strength, he wished he could shield him from the judgment of the wealthy elite. As the evening progressed, the moment arrived for the presentation of wedding gifts. The procession began with extravagant offerings, sparkling jewelry, keys to lavish vacation homes, and rare artworks from around the world, each gift more ostentatious than the last. The guests murmured their approval, admiring the wealth surrounding the young couple as they unwrapped the opulent gifts with enthusiastic smiles. Then came the moment when Tom stood up, clutching a small, unassuming box, wrapped in plain brown paper. The contrast was stark. While other gifts were lavishly adorned, Tom's offering was modest, lacking any frills or extravagance. A few guests exchanged bemused glances, and a faint chuckle rippled through the crowd. Robert Johnson's lips curled into a condescending smirk, while Margaret shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her fingers tightening around the stem of her wineglass. With measured steps, Tom approached Emily and Jake, placing the small box on the table before them. He took a deep breath, his weathered hands resting gently on the lid for a moment before stepping back. Jake, sensing the weight of the moment, reached forward, carefully peeling back the wrapping. Inside lay an old, well-worn key attached to a leather keychain, its brass surface smooth from years of use. Jake's breath caught in his throat as he recognized it instantly. "It's the key to the first car we ever worked on together, Dad," Jake said, his voice faltering. Tom's expression was steady as he replied, "It symbolizes the second chance I gave you, and the lessons we learned together." Murmurs spread through the room, a mix of confusion and amusement. Guests exchanged glances, some unable to contain their laughter at the simplicity of the gift. Robert Johnson leaned back in his chair, dismissing Tom's gesture with a wave of his hand. "What a thoughtful gift," he remarked sarcastically, attempting to mask his disdain. The conversation shifted, but the undertone of judgment lingered in the air. As the evening drew to a close, the message was clear. Tom Thompson was not welcome in their world. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted when a familiar voice rang out from the entrance. "Tom Thompson is a legend." The room fell into stunned silence as Vin Diesel made his entrance. Dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, gasps rippled through the crowd, expressions of confusion and disbelief flickering across the faces that had just moments before been indulging in quiet ridicule. The Johnsons froze, their carefully curated composure slipping for the first time that evening. Then he walked confidently toward Tom, ignoring the shocked gazes of the guests. He approached Tom and embraced him warmly, saying, "You changed my life." The stunned audience could only watch in silence, the weight of Vin's words hanging heavily in the air. Robert cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the moment. "Mr. Diesel, you know Tom Thompson?" he stammered. Vin turned his sharp gaze to Robert. "Know him? He's the reason I'm standing here today." The words struck like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves through the room. Vin began to tell a story that no one had anticipated, weaving a narrative that would change the perception of the man they had so recently dismissed. Years ago, before fame and success, Vin had been a struggling young man working as a bouncer at a bar, desperately trying to make ends meet while pursuing his dream. One night, a fight broke out, and though he wasn't the instigator, he was the one who lost his job. Sitting outside that night, wondering what to do next, he encountered Tom Thompson, who approached him with a kind smile. "You look like a guy who needs a second chance," Tom had said, extending a hand when no one else would. Tom offered Vin a job at his garage, teaching him more than just how to fix cars. He instilled in him the values of hard work, resilience, and the importance of character over wealth. Vin had taken those lessons with him through every struggle, and now, standing before the guests, he was ready to share how Tom had shaped his life. The crowd, who had once regarded Tom with disdain, now sat in stunned silence, grappling with the reality that the man they had mocked was a pivotal figure in the life of one of Hollywood's biggest stars. The atmosphere shifted dramatically as the once laughing guests now looked on with a mixture of respect and disbelief. Call to action. If this story resonates with you, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more inspiring narratives from Flourishing Tales. As Vin Diesel's heartfelt words echoed through the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The guests, who had been so quick to dismiss Tom Thompson, now found themselves grappling with the realization of who he truly was. A man whose impact extended far beyond the mechanics of a car. The silence that followed Vin's revelation was thick with disbelief, as many in the room began to reconsider their preconceived notions. Tom stood quietly, his composure unwavering, as he absorbed the sudden attention. He had never sought the spotlight, and yet here he was, thrust into it by a man he had once helped in a moment of need, Vin continued, his voice steady, recounting how Tom had taken him in during a time of hardship, providing guidance and support when he had nowhere else to turn. Each word painted a vivid picture of the kindness and wisdom that had shaped Vin's journey, transforming him from a struggling young man into a global superstar. The guests exchanged furtive glances, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats as they processed the unfolding narrative. Robert Johnson, who had prided himself on his ability to read people and determine their worth, felt the ground shift beneath him. The very foundation of his beliefs was being challenged. He had built his entire existence around the notion that wealth dictated value, and yet here was Tom, a man he had dismissed as insignificant, standing at the center of a revelation that could not be ignored. Vin's story resonated deeply, illustrating that true value lies not in material wealth, but in the character and compassion one shows to others. Tom taught me that life isn't about handouts, it's about recognizing opportunities and making the most of them, Vin concluded, his eyes locking onto Tom's. He gave me a chance when no one else would, and I owe him everything. As the weight of Vin's words settled over the room, admiration for Tom began to replace the scorn that had initially colored the atmosphere. Guests who had once laughed at Tom's simple gift now found themselves reflecting on their own lives and the values they held dear. Emily, standing beside Jake, felt a swell of pride for her father-in-law. She had always known that Tom was a remarkable man, but hearing Vin speak so highly of him illuminated the depth of his character in a way she had never fully grasped. Jake stood with his arm around Emily, his heart filled with gratitude for the man who had raised him. He had always admired Tom's unwavering integrity and work ethic, but now, witnessing the respect being bestowed upon him by a celebrity, he felt a profound sense of connection to his father's journey. It was as if the entire room was awakening to the truth he had always known, that real wealth was not measured in dollars, but in the strength of one's character and the kindness shown to others. Meanwhile, Robert struggled to maintain his composure. He cleared his throat, attempting to regain control of the situation. "Well, it seems we underestimated you, Mr. Thompson," he said, forcing a smile that did little to mask his discomfort. The words felt hollow, a mere attempt to deflect from the reality that was unfolding. Tom simply nodded, his expression calm and collected, refusing to let Robert's bravado unsettle him. The evening continued, but the tone had irrevocably changed. Guests who had once viewed Tom as a mere mechanic now sought him out, approaching him with tentative smiles and respectful nods. Some even engaged him in conversation, eager to hear more about his life and the lessons he had imparted. Tom, ever humble, welcomed their inquiries with grace, sharing anecdotes from his past and the values that had guided him throughout his journey. As people began to gather around Tom, Emily watched with a mix of pride and relief. She had worried about how her family would treat Jake and his father, but now she saw a different side of her guests, a willingness to learn to acknowledge the importance of character over status. It was a small but significant shift, one that she hoped would lead to greater understanding in the future. Meanwhile, Vin Diesel, sensing the impact of his words, took a moment to step back and observe the room. He had come to support Tom, but he had also unwittingly become a catalyst for change. As he looked around, he saw the transformation happening before his eyes. The guests who had once stood aloof now engaged in conversations filled with respect and admiration. It was a beautiful sight, a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of lifting others up. As the night wore on, the applause that followed Vin's speech echoed throughout the ballroom. But it was different this time. It was genuine, heartfelt, and filled with recognition of the true value of a man who had once been overlooked. Tom's humility shone through as he accepted the applause, a quiet smile of appreciation on his face. He had never sought validation from those who measured worth solely by wealth. Yet in this moment he felt a sense of fulfillment that transcended material success. The evening drew to a close, but the impact of the revelations lingered in the air. Guests began to depart, their conversations filled with newfound insights and reflections on the importance of kindness and second chances. Tom Thompson, once an outsider in the world of the Johnsons, had become a symbol of resilience and integrity, a reminder that true wealth lies not in what one has but in who one is. Call to action. If this story has inspired you, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Keep an eye out for more transformative stories from Flourishing Tales. As the applause for Tom Thompson began to fade, the atmosphere in the ballroom shifted once more. The guests, who had gathered to celebrate the union of Emily and Jake, now found themselves at the center of an unexpected lesson about character and humility. The whispers of admiration began to ripple through the crowd, and a sense of respect filled the air, transforming the earlier tension into something more profound. Vin Diesel, still standing near Tom, recognized the moment's potential. He turned to the assembled guests, his presence commanding attention. "You see," he said, his voice resonating with sincerity, "the true measure of a person is not their wealth or status, but the impact they have on others' lives. Tom Thompson is a prime example of that. He taught me that kindness and hard work can open doors that money alone cannot." The guests nodded, absorbing Vin's words as they reflected on their own lives. Many had been raised in an environment that emphasized social standing and material success, but they were beginning to see that there was more to life than the numbers on a bank statement. The conversation around the room shifted from superficial small talk to deeper discussions about values and the importance of community. Robert Johnson, still grappling with the reality of the situation, felt a nagging discomfort at the pit of his stomach. He had spent his life cultivating an image of success, but now he realized that his definition of wealth had been fundamentally flawed. As he watched Tom engage with the guests who had once looked down on him, he felt an unsettling shift in the balance of power. It was a humbling experience, one that forced him to confront his own biases and assumptions. Margaret Johnson, who had always prided herself on her social acumen, found herself captivated by Tom's genuine humility. She approached him, her demeanor softened by the evening's revelations. "Tom," she said, her voice warm, "I must admit I underestimated you. Your story is truly inspiring." Tom smiled politely, appreciating her acknowledgement without seeking validation. "Thank you, Margaret. It's just about doing what's right and helping others when you can," he replied, his sincerity evident. As the evening progressed, Emily noticed her friends and family increasingly gravitating toward Tom, Conversations blossomed as guests sought his wisdom and shared their own stories of struggle and perseverance. It was a far cry from the judgmental glances and dismissive attitudes that had characterized the earlier part of the night. In this moment, Tom became a beacon of hope and resilience, reminding everyone that true strength lies in character, not in wealth. Jake, standing proudly beside Emily, felt a surge of gratitude for his father. He had always respected Tom for his unwavering integrity, but now, seeing him embraced by the very people who had once scorned him, filled Jake with a sense of pride he had never fully articulated. "Dad," he said quietly, "I'm so glad everyone is finally seeing you for who you really are." Tom chuckled, his eyes twinkling with warmth. "It's not about me, son. It's about showing others that there's more to life than what meets the eye." As the evening drew nearer to its conclusion, the wedding cake was brought out, a stunning creation that mirrored the elegance of the occasion. Guests gathered around, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of the chandeliers, as Emily and Jake prepared to cut the cake. The moment felt significant, a celebration not just of their love, but of the newfound understanding that had blossomed that evening. With the first slice served, Emily looked around at the faces of their friends and family, now transformed by the events of the night. She couldn't help but feel a sense of joy at the unexpected connections forming within the room. Guests who had once viewed one another through the lens of wealth and status were now engaging in heartfelt conversations, sharing laughter and stories that transcended their differences. As they fed each other the ceremonial cake, Emily and Jake beamed with happiness, surrounded by a crowd that was no longer defined by their social standings. Instead, they were united by shared experiences, empathy, and the recognition that everyone has a story worth telling. It was a moment that symbolized the merging of two families, not just in terms of lineage, but in spirit. After the cake cutting, Vin Diesel took a moment to address the guests once more. "Let's remember this night as a reminder of the power of kindness and the importance of seeing the value in every individual, regardless of their background. We all have the capacity to lift one another up and create a more inclusive world." With that, the guests erupted into applause, their hearts filled with a renewed sense of purpose. The evening had become more than just a wedding. It had evolved into a celebration of humanity and an invitation to embrace the richness of character, compassion, and connection. As the night came to a close, Emily and Jake stood hand in hand, their hearts brimming with gratitude for the lessons learned and the bonds formed. They knew that their journey together would be shaped not only by love, but by the many stories and experiences that had intertwined that evening. Call to action: if this story resonates with you and inspires you to reflect on your own values, share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to stay tuned for more uplifting stories from Flourishing Tales. As the evening wore on, the atmosphere in the ballroom was filled with laughter, genuine conversations, and a newfound camaraderie that had not existed before. Guests who had once been divided by social status were now united in appreciation for the lessons imparted that night, with Tom Thompson at the heart of it all. The wedding celebration had transformed into an unexpected gathering of souls, each sharing their own stories of resilience and triumph. Emily and Jake stood together, basking in the warmth of the moment. They exchanged glances filled with love and pride, grateful for the support surrounding them. As they looked around, they could see their friends and family engaging with Tom, asking questions and sharing their own experiences. It was a beautiful sight, one that solidified the bond between their two families. Tom, for his part, remained humble amidst the attention. He spoke with guests who approached him, sharing anecdotes from his life and the values he held dear. "You see, it's not about where you come from or how much money you have," he explained to a group of curious attendees. "It's about the choices you make and how you treat the people around you. Everyone deserves kindness and respect." As Tom spoke, Emily noticed Robert Johnson lingering at the edge of the crowd. He seemed torn, grappling with the realization that his previous notions of worth had been challenged. Emily felt a pang of sympathy for her father, understanding that it was not easy for him to confront the flaws in his worldview. She hoped he would come to see the value of humility and compassion, just as the others had begun to. Finally, Robert made his way through the throng of guests, approaching Tom with a hesitant smile. "Tom," he began, his voice steady but revealing a hint of vulnerability, "I want to apologize for my earlier behavior. I didn't fully grasp the kind of man you are, and I've come to realize that I've been wrong in my judgments." Tom looked at Robert, recognizing the sincerity in his eyes. "Thank you, Robert. It takes a strong person to admit when they're wrong. We all have our biases, but it's never too late to learn and grow." The two men shook hands, and the surrounding guests watched with interest, sensing that a significant moment was unfolding. As they stood together, the tension that had previously filled the room began to dissipate. Emily felt a sense of relief wash over her. This was exactly the kind of change she had hoped for, a shift in perspective that could pave the way for a more inclusive future for both families. She knew that it would take time for old beliefs to fade, but this was a powerful step forward. As the night continued, Vin Diesel found a moment to speak with Jake and Emily. "You both have done something incredible here tonight," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've brought people together in a way that transcends wealth and status. That's a rare gift." Jake smiled appreciatively. "We couldn't have done it without my dad and your support, Vin. It's heartening to see everyone come together to celebrate love and understanding." Vin nodded, his expression serious. "Remember, this is just the beginning. The real work happens after tonight. Keep fostering these connections, and encourage others to see beyond the surface." Emily and Jake exchanged determined glances, both knowing that they were ready to embrace the challenge. They would continue to nurture the bonds formed that evening, ensuring that the lessons learned would not be forgotten. As the celebration drew to a close, the couple took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led them to this point. They had faced skepticism and criticism, but they had also found love and support in unexpected places. They understood that their union was not just about their love for each other, but about building a bridge between their families, a bridge that would stand strong against the winds of prejudice and judgment. The final moments of the night saw guests mingling around the dance floor, their spirits high and their hearts open. Emily and Jake shared a dance, enveloped in the warmth of their love and the acceptance of those around them. The music swelled, and they reveled in the joy of the moment, knowing that they had set the stage for a brighter future. As the last notes of the song faded, Tom stepped forward, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Thank you all for being here tonight, for embracing the spirit of love and understanding. Let's carry this energy forward into our lives, and remember that we all have the power to lift one another up." The crowd erupted into applause. Their hands joined in a collective acknowledgement of the journey they had all taken together. It was a night that would not be forgotten, a night that served as a reminder that true wealth comes from the bonds we forge and the kindness we extend to one another. As guests began to leave, smiles adorned their faces, and conversations buzzed with excitement about the new connections they had made. Emily and Jake stood hand in hand, watching as their friends and family departed, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude for the love that surrounded them. Call to action. If this story resonates with you and inspires you to reflect on the power of community and connection, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more uplifting narratives from Flourishing Tales. As the last guest departed from the ballroom, Emily and Jake took a moment to absorb the energy of the evening. The elegant space, now filled with the remnants of celebration, empty glasses, half-eaten desserts, and discarded ribbons, seemed to echo the warmth of the connections that had been forged that night. The couple stood hand in hand, their hearts brimming with gratitude and hope for the future. "Can you believe how everything changed?" Jake asked, glancing at Emily. "It feels like we walked into this evening with so much tension and uncertainty, and now it's like a weight has been lifted." Emily nodded, her eyes sparkling with joy. "I know. It's incredible to see my family and yours come together like that. It feels like we've turned a corner." She paused, taking a deep breath as she reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. "I always hoped my parents would come to see Jake for who he truly is, but I never imagined it would happen so dramatically." Jake chuckled softly. It was definitely unexpected, but in the best way possible. Your dad actually apologized to my dad. That's something I never thought I'd see. He paused, his expression turning serious. I just hope this isn't a one-time thing. I want our families to keep building on this. Me too, Emily replied, squeezing his hand. We need to keep the momentum going. Maybe we can arrange more family gatherings or outings, anything to help strengthen those bonds. As they spoke, Tom approached them from across the room, a warm smile on his face. There you two are. I just wanted to say how proud I am of both of you. You handled everything tonight with such grace. His voice was filled with genuine affection as he looked at his son and future daughter-in-law. Thanks, Dad, Jake replied, his voice thick with emotion. It means a lot to hear that from you. I'm just so glad that everyone is finally recognizing the importance of character. Tom nodded, his expression thoughtful. Sometimes it takes a moment like this for people to see beyond their own biases. I'm grateful for Vin's support, but it was really your love that brought everyone together. Emily beamed at Tom, feeling a newfound appreciation for the man she would soon call father-in-law. I just hope this is the beginning of a new chapter for both our families, she said, her voice filled with determination. I want us all to grow closer and to create a family dynamic based on understanding and respect. That's a beautiful goal, Tom replied, his eyes glistening with pride. And I believe you two can achieve it. Just remember to communicate openly and encourage each other. Family is about supporting one another, especially through challenges. As the three of them conversed, Margaret Johnson joined them, her demeanor softer than it had been earlier in the evening. I wanted to talk to you all, she began, looking at Tom with sincerity. I realize now how much I've let my preconceived notions dictate my actions. I'm sorry for how I treated you, Tom. You deserve respect, and I hope we can move forward from here. Tom smiled warmly, appreciating her honesty. Thank you, Margaret. That means a lot to me. I've learned that we all have the capacity to grow and change. It's never too late to build bridges. The conversation continued, with Margaret expressing her desire to get to know Tom better and to foster a genuine friendship between their families. Emily watched the exchange with a sense of relief and joy, grateful to see her mother embracing the opportunity for change. As the night began to wind down, Jake turned to Emily. Let's make a plan. We should organize a family get-together soon. Maybe a picnic in the park or a casual dinner at our place. I love that idea, Emily exclaimed, her excitement evident. We can invite both sides of the family and create a relaxed atmosphere where they can really connect. It's the perfect way to build on what we started tonight. With a renewed sense of purpose, the couple began discussing potential dates and activities, their enthusiasm infectious. They envisioned a day filled with laughter, games, and shared meals, where everyone could come together without the pressures of formalities. As they made their plans, Vin Diesel approached them once more, a playful grin on his face. I couldn't help but overhear your plans. Count me in for that picnic. I'd love to see how this family dynamic continues to evolve. Jake laughed. Of course, the more the merrier. Your presence would definitely add some fun to the day. Vin chuckled, shaking his head. I'm just here to enjoy good food and good company. You've got something special happening here, and I want to be a part of it. As the evening came to a close, Emily and Jake took a moment to reflect on the journey that had led them to this point. They had faced skepticism and challenges, but they had also found love, support, and a community that was willing to embrace change. Walking hand in hand toward the exit, Emily turned to Jake and said, "No matter what happens, I know we can face it together. We have each other, and now we have a family that's learning to grow alongside us." Jake nodded, a smile spreading across his face. Absolutely. This is just the beginning of our story, and I can't wait to see where it takes us. Call to action. If this story resonates with you and inspires you to think about the power of family and connection, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for more uplifting narratives from Flourishing Tales. The morning after the wedding dawned with a sense of renewal, Rays of golden sunlight filtered through the curtains of Emily and Jake's hotel suite, casting a warm glow across the room. They had spent the night recounting the extraordinary events of their wedding, still amazed by the unexpected turn the evening had taken. "I keep thinking about my father's face when Vin embraced your dad," Emily said, sitting up in bed with a cup of coffee. "I've never seen him so genuinely surprised. It was like his entire worldview was being challenged right before my eyes." Jake nodded, his expression thoughtful. "It's not often that someone like my dad gets recognized for who he truly is. Most people see the worn hands and simple clothes and make assumptions. They never take the time to understand the wisdom and kindness behind that exterior." Emily reached over and squeezed his hand. "Your father is an incredible man, Jake. The way he handled everything last night, with such dignity and grace, it was inspiring. I hope our children inherit that kind of character." The mention of children brought a smile to Jake's face. "They will," he assured her, "because we'll teach them what really matters. Not the size of a bank account or the prestige of a family name, but the impact you have on the lives around you." As they enjoyed their peaceful morning, a knock sounded at the door. Jake opened it to find a hotel staff member holding a small package. "Delivery for Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," the young man announced, handing over a neatly wrapped box. Curious, Emily and Jake sat down to open it together. Inside, they found a vintage car model, a perfect replica of the first car Jake had ever worked on with his father. Attached was a note from Tom, "To remind you both that every journey begins with a single step. The road ahead may not always be smooth, but with love and determination, you'll reach your destination together. All my love, Dad." Emily's eyes welled with tears as Jake read the note aloud. "He always knows exactly what to say," she whispered, running her fingers over the detailed model car. "This means more than all the expensive gifts combined." Jake nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "That's my dad. He understands that value isn't about price tags. It's about meaning and connection." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by another knock at the door. This time it was Robert and Margaret Johnson, looking well-rested but slightly hesitant. "We hope we're not intruding," Margaret said, her voice gentle. "We wanted to speak with you both before you leave for your honeymoon." Emily invited her parents in, noticing immediately that something had shifted in their demeanor. Gone was the usual air of superiority, replaced by a humility she had rarely witnessed. Robert cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable but determined. "Last night gave me a lot to think about," he began, his voice steady despite his obvious discomfort. "I've spent my entire life measuring success in terms of wealth and status. I believe that was what mattered most, what I should pass on to you, Emily." He paused, glancing at the car model on the table. "But seeing Tom last night, understanding the impact he's had on not just his son but on someone like Vin Diesel, it made me question everything I thought I knew about success and legacy." Margaret nodded in agreement. "We want you to know that we support your marriage, not just in words, but in actions. We'd like to get to know Jake's family better, to build a genuine relationship based on mutual respect." Emily felt tears springing to her eyes once more. This was the acceptance she had longed for, the bridge between the two families she had hoped might someday be built. "That means everything to us," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Jake, equally moved, extended his hand to Robert. "We'd like that very much. My dad has always taught me that it's never too late to learn and grow. I think there's a lot our families can learn from each other." Robert shook Jake's hand firmly, a gesture that symbolized more than just acceptance. It represented a willingness to change, to evolve beyond the limitations of his previous thinking. "We're planning a casual family gathering soon," Emily added, seizing the moment. "Something simple where everyone can relax and get to know each other better. We'd love for you both to be there." Margaret's face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. "We wouldn't miss it. And perhaps we could host something at our home as well. A dinner, barbecue where everyone feels welcome." The conversation continued, filled with plans and possibilities for the future. As they talked, Emily couldn't help but marvel at the transformation taking place before her eyes. Her parents, who had once been so rigid in their beliefs about status and worth, were now opening themselves to new perspectives and relationships. When Robert and Margaret finally left, promising to call soon, Emily turned to Jake with wonder in her eyes. "Did that really just happen? My parents suggesting a barbecue with your family?" Jake laughed, pulling her into an embrace. "It happened. And it's all because of you, Emily. Your love brought our families together, and your courage in standing up for what you believe in has changed all of us for the better." Emily shook her head, smiling. "Not just me. It was your father's dignity, your unwavering support, and yes, Vin Diesel's timely appearance. But most of all, it was about the power of character, the kind of character your father exemplifies every day." As they prepared to leave for their honeymoon, Emily and Jake felt a profound sense of gratitude. Their wedding had become more than a celebration of their love. It had become a catalyst for transformation, a moment of truth that had set in motion a chain of events they could never have anticipated. Call to action. Has someone's character or kindness ever changed your perspective? Share your experiences in the comments below and join our community at Flourishing Tales for more stories that inspire. As Emily and Jake embarked on their honeymoon, their hearts were filled with excitement and hope for the future. They had chosen a picturesque beach destination, where the sun kissed the ocean waves, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of salt and adventure. It was a welcome escape from the whirlwind of their wedding and the emotional journey they had just experienced. On their first morning, they strolled hand in hand along the sandy shore, the rhythm of the waves providing a soothing backdrop to their conversation. "Can you believe how much has changed in just a few days?" Jake remarked, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "It feels like we stepped into a new chapter of our lives." Emily smiled, soaking in the warmth of the sun and the joy in Jake's voice. "I know. It's like our wedding was more than just a celebration. It ignited a transformation in our families. I can't wait to see how everything unfolds back home." As they continued walking, they discussed their plans for the future. They envisioned a life filled with shared experiences, love, and a commitment to fostering connections between their families. "We need to keep the lines of communication open," Jake said thoughtfully. "I don't want our families to fall back into old patterns of judgment or distance. We need to actively work on building those relationships."
Emily nodded in agreement. "Absolutely. We can organize regular get-togethers, maybe even family game nights or outings. We can create new traditions that honor both families and bring everyone closer together."
Their discussions flowed easily, each idea sparking new thoughts and excitement. However, as they walked, Emily couldn't help but think about her parents' transformation. "It's incredible to see my mom and dad embracing this change. I never thought they'd be so willing to connect with your family, especially after everything that's happened." Jake smiled, squeezing her hand. "I think your parents realized that love and family are more important than status or wealth. They saw firsthand how meaningful connections can enrich our lives, and they're ready to be a part of that." Later that afternoon, as they lounged by the pool, Emily received a message from her mother. It read, "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, Emily. I want to make sure we create a welcoming environment for Jake's family when they visit. Let's plan something special when you return." Tears of joy welled in Emily's eyes as she shared the message with Jake. "Mom wants to host a dinner for both families. This is huge." Jake's face lit up with excitement. "That's amazing. It sounds like your parents are committed to making this work." As the days of their honeymoon passed, Emily and Jake cherished their time together, reveling in the freedom of being newlyweds. They explored local markets, enjoyed romantic dinners, and took long walks along the beach. But amid all the joy, they remained aware of the responsibilities that awaited them back home. On their final night, as they sat together on the beach watching the sunset, the sky ablaze with hues of orange and pink, Emily turned to Jake. "I've been thinking about how we can honor both our families in our future. I want our children to grow up knowing the importance of kindness and integrity." Jake nodded, his expression serious. "I agree. We need to instill those values in them from a young age, show them that true wealth lies in relationships and the impact they can have on others' lives." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, they shared their hopes for their future children. They envisioned a home filled with laughter, love, and open conversations about the importance of compassion and empathy. We can teach them to appreciate people for who they are, not what they have, Emily said softly. The couple returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. They were eager to implement their plans and continue nurturing the connections they had begun to forge. The first family gathering was just around the corner, and they were determined to make it a memorable occasion. When they arrived, energy was palpable. The Johnsons and Thompsons had come together, creating a warm and welcoming atmosphere. Emily and Jake moved through the crowd, greeting family members and feeling the excitement of the day ahead. As lunch was served, guests mingled, sharing stories and laughter. Emily felt a swell of pride as she watched her parents engage with Jake's family, their laughter mingling as they shared their experiences. It was everything she had hoped for, a celebration of unity that transcended their differences. After the meal, Jake stood up to address everyone. "I want to take a moment to thank you all for being here today. This gathering represents a new beginning for our families, a chance to embrace one another and build lasting connections." The room erupted in applause, and Emily beamed with joy. She knew this was just the start of something beautiful. As the afternoon progressed, the families participated in games and activities that encouraged teamwork and collaboration. Emily looked on, her heart swelling with happiness as she watched her parents and Jake's family bond over shared experiences. By the end of the day, Emily and Jake felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had taken the first steps toward creating a legacy built on love, understanding, and respect. They understood that the journey would not always be easy, but they were committed to nurturing these relationships and fostering a sense of belonging for everyone involved. As the day came to a close, Emily and Jake exchanged a knowing glance, a shared understanding that their love had the power to bring people together and create a brighter future for their families. Together, they were ready to embrace the challenges ahead, knowing that their hearts were united in a common purpose. Call to action. Have you ever experienced a moment that changed your perspective on family and connections? We'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Stay tuned for more inspiring narratives from Flourishing Tales.